What's up, heroes? Cody McKibben here from HERO Foundry.org. I've been meaning to share more over video for a long time, but this one's a little bit of a downer. But I wanted to give some background about, well, one of many reasons of why I started the HERO Foundry. Actually, it began as the HERO Project, but we're just in the process of building a new organization, a new company here based in the US for the first time in years, since we had our old DNA business back in Thailand. Anyhow, the other day, a couple days ago, Facebook, stupid Facebook, brought up an old memory. Apparently 3 years ago was it was the anniversary of the day I found out two things on the same day 3 years back, which kind of was part of the impetus of just my own life crumbling and burning everything to the ground. But it reminded me I had actually made a post 3 years ago when I found out that one of my earliest mentor in my teens at high school, one of my teachers from high school, my French professor, Alec Hodgins, had committed suicide. He sat in front of an oncoming train. I forget exactly how I heard the news, but one of my really good friends, going way back, I think had let me know. And I had written up a long post on Facebook that day. The other thing I'd learned that same very day was about my mother, who had just been given a real dire cancer diagnosis. At the time, she said it was they call it triple negative. I think it meant something like the 3 standard cancer treatments they would typically do wouldn't suffice. It was a stage 4 cancer diagnosis, and thank God she's still here with us. She's has a lot of health issues, but she's still alive, and all in all, she's doing fairly well. But at the time, this was 3 years ago, that was like a double whammy, both on the same day. I found out, my mom had cancer, a real bad cancer. And of course, back then I had no idea. I didn't think she'd pull through. But the one that really struck me at the time, obviously, was we lost my longtime friend and mentor, Alec. And Alec Hodgins was actually the guy who, if you guys know me, if you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that I did the whole digital nomad lifestyle for many, many years, 9 years, traveling around the world. I lived across 4 different continents. I spent much of my time, particularly in Asia. And of all the people on earth, Alec was the one who really planted the first seeds of just a passion for language. I mean, he was my French professor in school, so he really inspired an interest in languages in me, and foreign cultures and music and art and all the different things that come along with travel. And way back in the day, when I was about 17 years old, he was the first one who really drew my attention to Thailand, actually, in particular, when he took I'd already been in his class for like 3 years running, and he took his his family, his wife and his son, on a trip to Thailand when I believe I was 17. And, so we had 2 weeks where we had a substitute teacher, and when he returned, he shared a bunch of photographs and slideshow with us and told a bunch of stories, and he was the first one I heard from about Thailand. And I remember him saying specifically how it was like one of the last remaining places on earth where it was like, paradise on earth, and the US dollar went a really long way still, and then a couple years later I read 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, and he echoed that same sentiment. But I remember those first the photos of the beautiful beaches and stories about the just vibrant, interesting, wildly different culture came from my professor Alec Hodgins. And actually the first time I ever traveled abroad outside the US was with him. As a matter of fact, I went on a class trip to France also when I was 17. Spent 2 weeks in Cannes, down in the south of France, beautiful, on the Mediterranean, and did a homestay with a French family. Arnaud was the kid. I forget their last name, but anyhow. And spent a week in Paris with Alec and some other professors and fellow classmates. That was a hell of a time. There's a story sometime. So anyhow, this guy really, there's, other than my own father, there's very few people on earth that have had as big of an impact on me as Alec did. And so when I heard that he took his life, that was just crushing. And of course it didn't, neither one of these things, the news about my mentor's suicide and the news about my mom's cancer diagnosis, of course I wasn't the one most directly impacted by either one of those things. So I still, cutting down a tree. My prayers are with his family. And I wasn't the one who had to go through cancer, looking down the barrel of the gun and going through that just devastating treatment like my mother did. But it just, both those things really at the time impacted me very deeply, and really kind of threw me into a tailspin at the time. I was a new father myself, and I had gone through months of struggles just to make my way around the globe back to the Philippines to meet my son for the first time in person and figure out that situation. And I was obviously struggling being a new parent and kind of taking on the burdens of caring for a family. It's like overnight I had to be a dad, and because of the nature of life in the Philippines, I kind of had to take my now wife, mother of my child, and Chris. I became responsible for a small family of 3 overnight, basically. Anyhow, where am I going with this story? So the other day, Facebook, it's my own fault, because I'd written this lengthy post at the time, that day that I heard the news, and just wanted to give my respects, I guess, for my mentor that we'd lost. But yeah, I gotta say, like, you know, it's funny. That's one of the reasons why I actually am doing everything I can to pull away from Facebook and spend far less time on there these days, because I mean, that one was my own fault, but I wasn't expecting, you know, oh hey, it's the anniversary of your mentor passing away, and that really well, whatever, just revisiting those old memories I had a bad day the other day with that unexpected reminder. But really, I wanted to share about this because it's one of many reasons why, but this guy was one of the greatest men I have ever known in my whole life. And you know, just a phenomenal teacher. I mean, probably the best. He was one of my two favorite teachers of all time in school. And one of the best teachers I've ever encountered, you know, in any setting. Just dedicated and really connected with so many, almost all of his students. He was widely loved. He seemed like he had everything going on for him, you know. He had a great family, a fabulous wife. You know, his son, I think his son is in his 20s now. You know, and it had been a few years while I was overseas. I hadn't really spoken with him for a couple years. So I don't know what had happened, but I think, you know, he had become, I think he and his wife had separated for some reason. But it just, like, at the time, it confounded me. It confused me and really threw me for a loop, because I thought, like, he was my idol, one of my idols. I wanted to be like Alec Hodgins, and in many ways I did kind of model parts of my life after his example. And he's a big reason why, I mean, he was the first person, you know, that pointed me towards travel, that lifestyle, as well as like planting a real deep interest in education and teaching in me. And he was he seemed, back when I was close with him, he really was a great, he seemed like a great example of a family man. So when I heard this news, I was just like, you know, man, if a guy who's worked his tail off for such a long time and touched so many thousands of lives as a teacher and traveled the world and, you know, inspired a lot of people to be creative and think outside the box and also travel the world. I mean, this guy was just doing God's work, you know. Yeah, one of the best men I've ever known. And I just, at the time, it made me so sad, like, you know, I still can't really wrap my head around why or how you can get to that point where, you know, I've gone through real low times and hard times and serious depressions, but, you know, now that I'm a dad myself, I can't really imagine actually going through with something like that and leaving my kids behind, my son, and to do it in that way, like, that's just intense. So I don't know what brought him to that place in his life. I can't imagine. But one of the many reasons why the HERO Foundry is important to me, and my mission with, you know, the campaign I started as the HERO Project for my son, it was to recreate myself as my best self, as the best role model possible for my son. And And I remain committed to it now because I just, it's intolerable to me that that's what has become of our society. You know, we have so much wealth and so much opportunity and so much going on for us in the West, and I do think this is something that particularly affects men, although a lot of people struggle. But you know, the fact that the great men like that can somehow get to the point where their families are broken, their relationships are broken, and you know, even though they're doing something, they're following their own passion and they're influencing thousands of people in such a great way that they could, that men like that can get to a place where they feel like they have no other way out, or just give up for whatever reason. You know, that's why I'm here, because I hate seeing that, and I want to do anything in my power for anyone who's even approaching a situation like that, I guess. I know that, you know, we all, at certain times of our lives, we may encounter stuff that pulls us in that direction. You know, I've been on the edge of the abyss, as I like to say. Some of my friends say they call it the pit, when you get stuck in the pit. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here, because I've been there and I've stared into the abyss, and I've been through hell, man. I've met the devil himself, and I want to help other men. I want to help women too, but I'm here to help especially fathers, parents, leaders, business owners, especially entrepreneurs. We go through a lot of that kind of entrepreneurial roller coaster, that emotional, the ups and downs that go hand in hand with building a business. So anyhow, you know, if you guys, sorry for this long video, but and sorry that it's a bit of a downer, but I just wanted to share this personal story and send a shout out to my mentor, Alec, wherever you are. We're all still thinking about you down here, man, and hope to see you on the other side one day. But if this message resonates with you at all, you know, that's what I'm here for, and that's what HERO Foundry is here for, is to help in any way we can to keep inspiring people, even when life gets you down, even when everything seems like it's against you, even if you're going through hell, if you're staring into the abyss. Key is you just gotta never give up. And you need to surround yourself with people who believe in you and who've got your back, and who, you know, will support you through the hard times. So that's what I'm trying to build, is that kind of place. So if that's a place, if that's something you're looking for, then please visit us at herofoundry.org. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time. Take care, guys. Keep fighting the good fight, and remember, if it's getting hard like that, well, then you know you're onto something. There's a hero deep inside all of us, so stick with it, guys. Keep going. Peace and love.